Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I got a returning guest on the line, someone who is very welcomed here at Crush the Street, Jim Rogers, legendary investor, and someone who's given us a lot of insight on the economy and 2020. What a year it has been. Seems like we've reached a boiling point with all of the macro events happening. We had the virus, and now with the elections and riots and people just frustrated. I really am interested in getting Jim's comments on all of this. Jim, thanks for coming on Crush the Street with me today.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, Kenneth. I mean, I learned everything I know from Crush the Street.
I love it. Well, look, we've had quite the year here in 2020. And many people would say that it's a result of what has been building up with debt, with the problems, societal problems, even race relations. All of this leads is all a reason because of financial problems in the system. So, what are your thoughts on what we've seen this year, and what we're looking at now here in November of 2020?
Well, I'm not the first to figure out that if you can figure out the money, you can figure out the finance, you can probably pretty much figure out what's going on. When things go going wrong in the economy and people's lives, they get upset, they get angry, they vote for change, they riot, they do whatever, they burn buildings, they do whatever they have to because they're not happy when things are not going right. When things are going right, oh my God, they beg foreigners to come. They love change. They want anybody to come along and make even more dramatic changes. Let's all prosper and be happy and get rich. So when things are bad, they get very bad and it snowballs. When things are good, they get very good and it snowballs. And that's what's been happening now. If we were having this conversation a year ago, I would have said to you, America is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. Since then, it's gotten much, much, much higher, but not just in the US, everywhere. We had big problems in 2008 because of too much debt. Kenneth, oh my God, the debt has skyrocketed. Even China has debt now. China had no debt 20 years ago, but even China has a lot of debt. So all of this debt is accumulating. It makes problems worse. When you have a lot of debt, it's hard to run very fast because you've got this burden on your back that you have to deal with. If you don't have debts, you can sprint ahead, do all sorts of new and different things, and have a wonderful time.
Yeah. Well, given the state of the world with lockdowns, with government stripping our freedoms, and it's really a dystopia. With people locked down in their homes, and neighbors, telling on you, the authorities, telling the authorities, hey, this person has people at their house. I mean, is this a type of world that you could have ever have imagined that we would be at? Given what you've seen over the years.
We, the United States, or we, the world? It's happened in many countries, many times throughout history, where people spy on each other, especially when they're bad times or when they're told you better spy on each other. It's good for you. America's had times when we spied on each other, turned each other in. I don't like it, but we're in that kind of period again where everybody's unhappy, everybody's looking for scapegoats. And when you look for scapegoats, foreigners are first. You always blame the foreigners first, but then you look around your own area, you find more scapegoats.
Hmm.
It's not good, but it's the way human beings are. It's the way history is.
Yeah. And so, what is the cycle? If we can try to wrap our minds around it, what needs to be flushed out for us to get to a point of prosperity again, a turning, if you will?
Well, the world has much, much too much debt. As I said, the United States was the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, and we've added trillions with a T, trillions since then. But Japan, look at Japan or England. I mean, you pick the country; they're all doing it. So, I mean, Kenneth, this has always ended badly,
Mm.
very badly. We've never had so much debt in the world before, but when we've had big debt, it's always ended badly. This is going to end very, very badly too. It ends with bad times, despair, oftentimes war, usually war, because people have to blame somebody. And the politicians never blame themselves, they blame the foreigners. So I am not I have two young girls, two daughters. You know, it's a good time to be old, Kenneth. It's not a good time to be young, certainly not in the US.
Oh man. Well, it is a crazy time. I mean, but if you look at the stock market, my goodness, it's high flying excitement, right? And it's kind of a crazy world when you think of it. But I mean, what are your thoughts on the stock market? It's already at elevated levels, and you have the news of Pfizer and Moderna, this 95% vaccine effectiveness, sending stocks into the stratosphere. Given the circumstances of 2020, I wouldn't have been able to predict that, like you said, in 2019. What we're seeing here today, I'd predict much higher gold prices, stocks, at 50% of their values. But here we are.
Well, Kenneth, every central bank in the world has been printing money as fast as they can. The Japanese have said unlimited. That's their word. Everybody is printing, borrowing, spending. You give me a few $1 trillion and I'll show you a very, very good time, Kenneth. And that's what's going on. All this money's got to go somewhere. It takes a long time to build a factory. It doesn't take a long time to push your button and buy Amazon. And that's what people are doing all over the world. It looks as though we may wind up in a blow off. We often in history have had blow offs after a long period of rising prices, especially when something comes along like a lot of easy money or whatever. So we may very well be entering or have entered a blow off where stocks just explode. It will end with a disaster, but it looks to me, and I'm not very good at market timing, but it looks to me like we may be entering a blow off period, not just in the US, other markets as well.
Jim, what does it look like to you from the outside looking into the U.S.? Do you feel the U.S. is bringing down the rest of the world, or is the U.S., destroying itself? And you're glad to be outside of the mess that is happening here in this country.
Well, I'm an American citizen, so I cannot be completely outside of it, a voter and a
Still
taxpayer
paying
and everything
taxes,
else.
right? I
Yeah,
got
I'm
it.
still paying taxes. But no, it is disheartening. You know, this week, 15 Asian nations signed a free trade agreement. The U.S. was not in it. Mr. Trump is making China great again. He's pulled out, and the rest of the world is bypassing the U.S. And Washington, they're sitting there shrieking at each other about evil Chinese, evil Chinese. And in the meantime, the rest of the world is saying, okay, bye bye, America. We're going to move on without you. Do I like that? Of course not. But when I look out the window, I see it happening. Japan, Korea, China, all these countries are getting together and going forward while the US is shrieking about evil foreigners.
So, looking at what we've seen here in 2020, gold has done what it's done. I mean, hit $2,000. What are your thoughts on gold here? Is it something that you see continuing to move higher, or has gold made its move that investors should be content with?
Well, I don't see how you can be discontent with gold near all-time highs if you own gold. I own gold. I've never sold any gold. I've given away a little bit, but never sold any. And I will be buying more gold. Not now. I'm waiting. A lot of people are being forced to liquidate their gold because they got to buy rice or food or whatever it is. So, there's a period when gold is consolidating or correcting, and I won't get the move right, but I will buy more later. I will actually buy more silver, Kenneth, rather than gold. Silver is down 60% from its all-time high. Gold is down 10% from its all-time high. So I will buy both, but I will probably buy more silver than gold.
Jim, do you follow Bitcoin much? Is it something that interests you? Obviously, we've seen Bitcoin come back to a 34-month high of around $16,800. Is it something that piques your interest, and is it at all in the asset class, maybe in a speculative sector similar to gold?
Well, I have to watch everything, Kenneth. If you're going to be a investor, well, you should watch everything. I try to. I've never bought or sold any Bitcoin. Obviously, I wish I had. Um, I am not optimistic. First of all, there have been hundreds of cryptocurrencies, and as you know, many of them
Thousands.
have disappeared, totally disappeared, and wiped
Mhm.
out a lot of people. Um, but there are smart people who are buying and selling Bitcoin and others and making money. Hooray. Uh, in my view, if cryptocurrency, well, first of all, I should say that money is going to be on the computer soon, Kenneth. It already is in China. You cannot take a taxi with money in China. You cannot buy ice cream. You have to use your phone if you're going to use anything in China. Some countries are ahead of the rest of us, China being one of them. So, and all governments, including the US, are working on computer money now. So all money is going to be on the computer. They love it. They don't have to print it. They don't have to transport it. They don't have to account for it. They don't have to safeguard it. They love it. But more important, Kenneth, they know everything you do. They're going to call you up one day and say, you've been drinking too much coffee this month. Cut down. They know every single thing. I mean, I hate this, of course, but they love it. They love having total control over all of us. So crypto money is coming, but it's going to be government money in the end. If Bitcoin or some of them become successful, history shows that governments will then turn around and make it illegal because they do not want to lose their monopoly of money. I don't like that at all. But and the crypto guys say, well, we're smarter than the government. And they are. Of course they're smarter than the government. But the government's got the guns and the tanks, whether we like it or not. And if
Mm.
they make it illegal, most people, me anyway, and I presume many others, will not use computer money except government computer money, which is already here. It is getting bigger and better and wider spread.
Jim, what do you believe or suspect will be the government's next form of kicking the can down the road? Is it bail-ins, bailouts? Does it concern you to have cash in the bank for if the government's going to say, hey, we need this money and we need to freeze your account? And is that something that bothers you and worries you?
Of course it does. I mean, some governments around have already done it. They don't take the cash; they take your retirement account or your pension plan, and for your own good. For your own good, Kenneth. They're not being greedy. They're trying to help you. They're giving you government bonds at 3% in 30 years or something because then you don't have to worry about the stock market and things like that. So they'll do this. They've already started doing it in some countries for your own good. That will probably happen in the US eventually. What is also likely to happen, whenever there's a crisis, people look around for any new theory. Once upon a time, Mr. Marx had a wonderful theory, which a lot of people tried for decades. It was brilliant theory. Well, I mean, nobody wants to be a Marxist anymore because we know it doesn't really work, although it sounded beautiful to many people for a long time. Well, now there's something called MMT, more money today. And they say all you got to do is just print it up and happy days. Well, it's great. It sounds easy, sounds wonderful, sounds beautiful and brilliant. And I'm sure that the British are already basically practicing MMT. They're not announcing that's what they're doing, but I suspect you're going to see more governments do it because it's an easy way and it sounds good. I said before, we may have a blow off. Well, that would be part of the reason for the blow off because we don't have to worry about anything. Oh, my goodness. What could be better than more money today? Endless. Well, what will happen eventually, of course, it will all cave in and collapse. But in the meantime, hooray.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing that we don't have more people like you in government that are pointing out the obvious. But it seems like everyone needs to be a cheerleader. If you had the position of the president, maybe you would be a cheerleader, Jim, instead of talking the way you are now.
But that's the way you listen. Somebody like me could never be elected president because you because of what I've just said. Nobody wants to hear that kind of stuff. They want to hear happy days are here again, and if they're not here again, I'm going to bring them. I've got this white horse. I'm going to come riding in and make things better for you. No, no,
Well,
I mean, for better or for worse, that's how democracies work, how many governments work, and whether we like it or not, it's less bad than most other systems of government. So that's what we've got.
well, we're in a really screwed up democracy at this point, and it's getting worse between the election fraud, the dysfunction in our government. I mean, we're all sitting around looking like we might have some sort of civil war uh, breakout. If Donald Trump ends up becoming the president, I kind of worry about what the country is going to do to rip itself apart on that news that Joe Biden isn't the president.
Well, I read the same newspapers you do, and of course, there would be many, many people who would be shocked, stunned, and very, very angry. There are also going to be people who are going to be angry if Mr. Trump is not the new president because he has told them, guys, I won this election, and he's told everybody that there's fraud and cheating, etc. Well, if everybody believes that, then then that doesn't make people happy. Whoever wins, they sort of it helps them lose more trust, and without trust, when people are angry, oh, I said before, that's how things get really bad. When people are having a hard time, then they start blaming everybody else, especially if the government has told you they're all crooks, liars, cheats. It's terrible. You can't trust anybody.
Jim, I want to appreciate you for coming on the show with me once again. Thank you so much. If people want to learn more about you, the work you're doing, let them know where they can go and what they can expect to find.
No, Kenneth, I don't have anything to sell. I'm just a simple person, trying to survive like everybody else. I mean, I have a website, but there's nothing there. It just gives my speaking schedule and maybe my books or something. But no, I don't have anything to sell.
Well, I appreciate your time. It's you're very generous with your time, and we're very grateful.
Thank you, Kenneth. Let's do it again sometime.
Yes, sir.
Be worried. Watch Crush the Street and be prepared. Bye bye.